Well, welcome to Whisky Whiskey. And what is this channel all about? It's about whiskey. But you notice there's no whiskey on the table. I have no glasses. I don't look like I'm sampling anything. So it can be about maybe just sitting there talking whiskey. What we're going to get into tonight is the 18-year-olds. And it's my own personal, we'll say, opinion and selection of, and my experience with the 18-year-olds. And I'm sort of jumping over the 12s. I'm jumping over the 10s, the 12s, the 15s, 16s, and that. I thought I'd go to the 18s because I could get through it a lot faster. Because let's face it, I don't have as many 18s as I have 15s and 16s. And I certainly, you know, if I was doing the 10s and the 12s, it would have to be probably in 3 parts. So we're going to get through this fairly fast tonight, and we're going to talk about what I feel is good value for your money in an 18, my own personal experiences. So you're asking yourself, what are these whiskeys doing on the table? They're not 18s. No, they're not. But what I'm showing you here is whiskeys that we probably could afford still today, at least certainly these guys in the lower part here, the 8, the 10, the 12, 14s, maybe get up to the 15, 16s, so getting a little bit pricier. What we are struggling to afford is these whiskeys, the 18s. By the way, this is one of the whiskeys you won't see in the presentation. There's a few whiskeys I missed. Some of it was at the moment when I was doing this, gathering things. Some just didn't stand out. And there's the odd one I might have forgot. So this is a Bowmore 18. I've had it for 5-ish years. You can usually tell by the level of the bottle if I've had this 5 years, is it my go-to whiskey? So sometimes the level of a bottle can tell you a lot. If it's an only bottle and I haven't had 2 or 3 of them. Let's get into our presentation on the 18-year-olds, the affordable, the not so affordable, the ones that I think are great value for your money. What I'm going to do tonight is we're going to take a look at some of the whiskeys that I've explored through the years. The ones that have got maybe anecdotes written next to them, and I'm going to start right off with, and I just happen to have them down here within reach. So the first guy within reach is going to be, and it's one of the whiskeys that I was lucky enough that my son bought me, and it's Talisker. This whiskey was an affordable whiskey when my son bought it. The new one isn't. And so it's one of those whiskeys that I will not ever be able to afford. So I'm very careful on how I drink a Talisker. Careful? Well, I'm sipping it, that's for sure, and I will only serve it to people that sip, because it's not something that I'm going to see again. I just don't think it's that great a value for a guy like me. If you've got money, Talisker's a great whiskey, but there's alternatives. So let's put the Talisker away. Actually, let's leave the Talisker out here. And we're going to look at something that I think is more affordable. And you notice I drank a bit of it. So this is a Cask Orkney, and this is an AD Rattray. So, I've had the Highland Park when it was affordable, and the Highland Park has gone the same direction as the Talisker. It's sort of done this. So the 18-year-old Highland Park that I really liked, I no longer can afford. So here is an AD Rattray Cask Orkney. And we know it is a Highland Park. And I have drank it next to the Highland Park. And for your investment, this has got to be one of the best values for your money out there. So where does this come in? And I think I paid 155, 160-ish, I think is where this came in. And The last bottle of Highland Park I bought was over 200, and now it's way up there. I forgot what it is, but I'm gonna put the price on the video of where these whiskeys have gone. So this to me is my replacement, and it's an enjoyable whiskey, and you can tell by how much of the bottle is left. So we're going to get now away from a little of this peated stuff here, and we're going to explore one of my other whiskeys here. This one's an interesting one, the Tomatin. When I got the Tomatin 18, and it's the Oloroso sherry cask. Now, I don't know how well this did in reviews, but I wasn't doing too good with this bottle in the beginning. And I watched a review of Ralphie's, and Ralphie said it's got to sit a while. And it was the best advice I got. So this whiskey has become a bit of a gem because it's oxidized. And it's become delicious. It's sweetened up. The bite is the astringency is gone, but it's still got those characteristics that make it a good sherried whiskey. And what did I pay for this? This is around the $165 to $170 mark. Now it's gone up a little bit since then, but it has not skyrocketed. So my advice, if you buy a Tomatin 18-year-old Oloroso and you're having problems with it, let it oxidize a bit. And certainly if you're drinking, if you put the glass down and let it sit for a half an hour. Another one that is actually worth bringing up, because this one here, I've never had problems with, the 18 Deanston. Now, this guy for sure has some Oloroso influence. I think the original, the original writing on this was not so much on the label, but on the website, talked about the bourbon cask influence. But we found out later on there's sherry in here, and you can taste it. And it's a very, very rich drink. Now, why I brought this out is I still think this is incredibly good value for your money. It's an excellent price. I rate this quite high. I did review it. And if you get yourself an 18 Deanston, I think you're going to like it. I haven't heard too many people complain when I pour them a shot of an 18-year-old Deanston there. So, we'll kind of do this. And we're going to go and look at another one that this guy has been a bit of a sleeper. The Jura 18. Now, I didn't get a lot of good notes on Jura, but I looked at some reviews and I also look at reviews in Canada from some sites in Canada, and I look at reviews from the people that sell it, the liquor stores that sell it. This does quite well with the liquor stores that sell it. Part of it is because this, I paid 140-ish, I think it's up to 145 or 150 or something like that. It's a very sweet drink. I really taste the Oloroso. It's got some very musty notes to it. For me, this suits my palate. You can tell there, I actually got several bottles of this for that reason. I was worried it was going to go up. I never knew in the beginning with Jura because it's kind of all over the place. I've had a couple of decent Juras and I've had a few Juras that were But this guy here is a winner. And for the price, by golly, I don't know, 140, 145 for an 18-year-old? That's like going back a few years. So this is, I think, incredible value for your money. This has been a sleeper. This is Speyburn. Now, the Speyburn 18 is one of my favorites. Just seems to again suit my palate. And it's been like that right from the beginning. So this isn't one that had to oxidize. This isn't one that had to, I always let them sit in the glass when I first open them, but this is one I could enjoy at any time. This has been one of the more consistent bottles I've got. For 175, 180, now it's up in the 190, 188, I think is what it is. Here in Canada, so it means it's probably a heck of a lot less elsewhere. Speyburn 18, one of my favorites. Now, we're going to get into, we're going to move up a little bit in price again here. Well, it's almost the same as the Speyburn. Anik 18. This has been another whiskey that I really feel is replacing some of the pricier whiskeys that we can't afford. And there's not much I could say wrong about this whiskey. Like the Speyburn, unchill filtered, 46. It's got the sherry influence. Overall, this whiskey here, priced, when I got it, it was in the 185 to 190. It might be a little more than that now. It might be just right close to the 200 in Canada. But, you know, elsewhere, internationally, you're probably getting this a lot less expensive. This company, they do an incredibly good job. I really think their aging, their cask management is there. Yeah. So this one, again, like the Speyburn, a good value for your money still. But another one that I feel, well, you know, most of you have probably had Old Pulteney at one time or another, but this guy here is their 18, and they went through some changes. I believe it was the 17 before and the 21. But anyways, this one here has had mixed reviews. I like it. Personally, I like this whiskey. It is up in the $200 range, or a hair bit under, or a hair bit over in Canada here. But, you know, like the Anik there, price-wise, I feel it's really got the Old Pulteney character. I still think if we can keep it, just keep it squeaked around the 200 or lower. I'm going to get into a whiskey that I really spoke highly of, but unfortunately all good things have to go up in price. Here is the Arran 18. When I bought the Arran 18, it was in the 200, maybe 20, just above 200. We'll say it was just above $200. Great whiskey, beautiful whiskey. It was so affordable I was able to buy a second bottle of it. But today, this has gone way up there in price. This is exclusively matured in sherry casks, so that could be part of the problem. They're just paying too much for the casks these days, but it's still a great whiskey. Unfortunately, you know, I look at this, and as I'll be talking about this other whiskey that I'm not even going to be showing on the table because I haven't been able to afford it for a while. But this has sort of gone the direction that whiskey has, but it's still within reason. It's still less than half the price of that whiskey, but it's getting up in the $300 range. So incredible whiskey. Can you afford it? You know, but it's still one of my favorites. I'm going to go back to this other guy because I still think it's a killer price, and I'm going to show you another whiskey that has gone up recently, and it's been one of my favorites. This is you know, I'm going to include the 17s in next to the 18s because this is a whiskey that I feel deserves attention. It's the Glenfarclas 17. Always have liked the 17. It's one of my favorites. When I bought this originally, it was in the 165-ish, 170, 65, 70. And then it went up to the 180-ish, you know. And today it's up, I don't know, it's 220, whatever. So we're seeing this guy go the same direction. Now, I believe it is the cask issue that's driving these whiskeys up in price. Something to remember about, you know, aging. Why do these whiskeys cost so much as we age them? You know, when you look proportionally, you see this going on. It's the angel's share. You know, we lose a lot of our cask. And so the whiskey goes up in price as we age it, you know. And in different climates, it goes up even faster. You know, if you were, you know, maturing in India or a place like, you know, Taiwan, you know, like Kavalan and Amrut, those distilleries, I mean, boy, their angel share is way above what it is in, we'll say, Scotland or over here in Canada. So, but anyways, in the case of what we're seeing the last few whiskeys I've shown you, this is more, I think, of the cost of these casks. So, and that's probably why we're seeing a lot more port casks being used, and so, you know, some of our wine casks are just more affordable. But this is a really good whiskey. You know, still not out of sight. You know, it's still 220, 210 to 220. So maybe grab it while you can, because it's a heck of a nice whiskey. We do drop down to 43. The 15 is a 46, but this is where we start to drop down to the 43%. So now, speaking of 43, here's another one, same story. And I did a comparison of the old with the new, because I have the original, dates back, oh God, 10, 12. Oh, it goes back to, you know, it goes back at least that. And this is their new bottling. Now, we compared the two, and, you know, this is still a decent whiskey. The Glenmorangie 18, again, a lot of, we got a lot of influence of sherry, 43%. I purchased this. I got this $170 range. And the first bottle, the second bottle I got was, actually the first bottle was under 170. The second bottle I got, I think it was 178. And it's gone up to 35 or whatever. So again, getting out of sight. Auchentoshan. Now, what can I say about Auchentoshan? Didn't pay a lot for it. This could be 140, 145. Still a pretty decent value for what you're getting. It's a 43. It's not one of my favorites, and I don't think am I a fair judge on this whiskey? Well, it's a lowland whiskey. It's a lot like an Irish whiskey. It's triple distilled. It doesn't have any grain whiskey in it, but it does have that, you know, that Irish character. And when you think of it, you know, I mean, very close to Ireland, triple distill. There was a lot of, I think, Irish influence on that distillery, and so you are getting something that probably resembles an Irish whiskey more than a Scottish single malt. But it does represent the lowland. It's got sherry influence as well. You know, the bourbon and sherry. It's an okay whiskey. It's a smoothie. I call it a great whiskey for somebody just getting into whiskey. I think you'd really like this. So, but the price is still good. So I can't criticize it because it's in the 140, 145 range. Auchentoshan 18. The Glen Grant is another one of the whiskeys that I've acquired a taste for. There is no, you know, you talk about the Major and how he created these purifiers, and he's got this lighter, it's a lighter whiskey. It has a lighter delivery to it than you'll have with, let's say, something like a Glenmorangie or a Glenfarclas. Let's say definitely lighter than the Glenfarclas there. It's a really nice bourbon cask presentation. 43, and it's still priced in the 185-ish range. This was 1 year, and I forget what year it was. It was Jim Murray's Whiskey of the Year. So still reasonable. 18-year-old Glen Grant. By the way, this is the #1 whiskey in Italy. So there you be. So Glen Grant, 18-year-old. We're going to now get into these whiskeys that we all know, and they're still reasonably priced, though this is starting to creep up. So I paid $160 for this, third time around maybe. I think I paid originally around the 100. If you go back far enough, I think I paid more than $125. But this, it was say recent years. So in recent years, 160, 155, 160. I think it's 175-ish now today. 40%. So now we're dropping down a notch. 40%. Old Glenfiddich smoothie. This is probably, there's an argument between it and Glenlivet, but probably the #1 selling whiskey single malt in the world. It was the first to go single malt, to market single malt. They came to North America and actually, they took the risk and decided, we're not going to sell to the blenders. The market's not that great. Let's start selling our own single malts. And of course, we have to show a Glenlivet. Now, I had the old Glenlivet, and it was a 43. Now they've dropped this down to 40, but what they did do was they kept it within reason. I paid $160 for this. $160 for an 18-year-old whiskey. It's a 40. So, you don't add water to it. The water's already been added, but it's still a decent whiskey. I've always liked Glenlivet. I've always liked their 18, and it was one of the first 18s. The Glenfiddich and the Glenlivet were, definitely some of the first 18-year-olds that I drank. And I'll be telling you about the other that was one of my first as well that I can't afford anymore. But anyways, Glenlivet 18, still an affordable whiskey, 40%, still enjoyable at 40. We've got here, and you can tell because I've only got the small 18 Johnny Walker, blended whiskey, 40. Yeah, you betcha it's chill filtered. But anyways, Johnny Walker 18. The reason I got the small bottle is because you're not going to see me go out and buy it would have to be a heck of a deal before I buy a full bottle. But it's one of those that you can sip on, and I don't know, it's still an okay whiskey as a blend. It's not going to touch a Dewar's 21. Sorry, it's not. So I just thought I'd show it because it helps me introduce the next most popular whiskey in the world. This is the most popular Scotch. And here it is, Ballantine 17. What do I think of the 17? Well, the 17 was, let's see, price-wise, $160 for a full bottle of 18-year-old Johnny Walker, and I paid $80, $85, $80, somewhere in that range for the 17-year-old Ballantines. Now, if you were comparing the two, is this worth almost twice what this is? And price? No, it's not. So this might be something you might want to go after if you're looking at a blended 18-year-old Johnny Walker. So if we're looking at maybe even a better priced whiskey, blended Scotch, we should be looking at the 18-year-old Dewar's. I don't have it here. I have had it, and I would say it's definitely comparable to either of these. The difference is that 160, this is, I paid 80-ish, maybe it's up a little higher than that now, it might even be 90-ish now. You'll be paying 60 for an 18-year-old Dewar's. Now, if you're going to an 18-year-old Dewar's at 40%, you can get a 46%. This is a 21-year-old Dewar's, and this is Cracker Barrel stuff. I'll tell you, this is really good stuff. So, what's the price of this? This is a half a bottle, what, 350 ml, and it's in the $60, $65 range. Killer deal. So, these are just things if you're looking for good value for your money, and you want things that are still decent and we're talking, we're going from a 40 ABV to a 46 in that 21, by the way. Now, I have one whiskey here I've left to the end. And you're looking for that super value, really good for your money, but still a decent whiskey. And so I'm going to bring up Glengarrick Renaissance Chapter 4. Now, when I first tried this whiskey, and actually I'd read the reviews, so I was reluctant at first, and I'd read the reviews, and there was mixed reviews on it, but some good reviews. But I remember Whiskey Jason, he did all 4, and a couple of the other reviewers did all 4, because it was chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 was the 15, 2 was the 16, and 3 was the 17. One of the criticisms from Whiskey Jason was this was woody. Now, he might be a little bit more sensitive to the astringency of wood than I am, because, it was okay. When I bought it, I took the risk, I bought it because I realized that he finds things a little astringent that I don't, so. But what I did notice, that if you let this sit, that astringency disappears, all but disappears, we'll say. This is my second bottle, and I bought another bottle just in case, because it is priced at $100. I paid $135 for this, and I paid, $135 for the bottle previous to this, and I paid $139 for this. And it's 48, is it? 48 ABV? I'm trying to remember, it's 48 or 50. This is 50.2% ABV. And it's delicious stuff. But I've let it oxidize a bit. Maybe not as much as the Tomatin, but it's a killer whiskey for that price. But definitely well worth your money. Is it over the top? No, there's whiskeys that are over the top, but you know what? $139. Come on, I'm not paying $700 for a Macallan's, and $800 for their sherry casks. So, and about Macallan's. So, Macallan's was one of those whiskeys that I first started off with when I started with Glenfiddich and Glenlivet. Macallan was part of those whiskeys, and I didn't just jump into the 18s. And they had great whiskeys, and I was very fortunate in that when I was commercial fishing, when I delivered my fish, I had a red carpet treatment from the buyer, and he would buy me an 18-year-old Macallan's. Now, let's face it, it was affordable back then, because my son bought me a bottle as well. So I had numerous bottles of Macallan's 18 through the years. A while back there, I did get a chance to have a glass of Macallan's at a friend's place, and I brought my Aaron over, and we did a little shootout between the two of them, and we both agreed that the Aaron's by far was the better whiskey. And this is, our palates. That's how we saw it. And at the time, this was a little over 200. And the Macallan's, I don't know where it was. It was probably 400 or 500 at the time. It's up 7 plus, and like I say, the sherry oak cask is around 800. So, but that's that tells you where some of this whiskey might end up. It's hard to say. I don't know how they could survive at that price, and we know that this is a cyclical market. Remember the whiskey lock, what happened there. So right now we're in a whiskey boom, and prices are going up. But we don't know where things will be tomorrow. But I'm going to suggest that we think twice before paying, in excess for an 18-year-old when there are some good values out there. And you do your research, you will find some good values. And I hope you got some value out of what I have presented tonight. Of course, it's my palate, my opinion. And you're going to have to take some risks, but you got to think for the few moments that we taste these whiskeys, we actually enjoy taste, we nose, and the kind of money we're paying for them. And after a few drams, come on, You know, some of those whiskeys that you didn't really think were that great suddenly start to taste like a Macallan's, you know. So, you know, you have a few grams, you've been there. But I think that we have to just be smart when we're starting to buy the higher aged whiskeys today, because they have climbed considerably. Having said that, I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Whisky Whiskey, and looking forward to seeing you again. So, on that note, Salam.